Hi, it's Aaron, and during this week's video tutorial, I'm going to talk about dealing directly with music supervisors as opposed to working with music publishers and music libraries. And so far up until this point, the majority of the leads that I've given you have been from music publishers and music libraries. And the reason is because in general, music publishers and music libraries are just simply more open to hearing music from unknown independent songwriters. Publishers and libraries that are established typically have developed relationships with music supervisors that will listen to their music on a regular basis. So it's in general a lot easier to get your music heard and to have your music represented by music publishers and music libraries. But with that said, there's really nothing preventing you from working directly with music supervisors. It's just that it's in most cases a little bit harder to develop a relationship directly with supervisors. But you can do it, and during this week's video tutorial I'm going to talk about how it works and how it's different than working with a music publisher or music library. So the downside is that it's sometimes harder to get your music heard directly from music supervisors. The upside is that if you do work directly with music supervisors on projects, you really bypass the middleman, and you don't have to share your publishing royalties or licensing fees, for that matter, with an outside publisher. There are also differences in terms of how you register songs with either ASCAP or BMI or whatever performing rights organization you belong to. And for this video, I'm assuming most of you are US based, and most of you probably belong to either ASCAP or BMI. It's a little bit different depending on which organization you belong to in terms of how you register your songs when you're dealing directly with music supervisors. So I'm going to talk about specifically an ASCAP and BMI in this week's video. And the way it works with ASCAP is that if you place a song directly with a music supervisor with ASCAP, you are entitled to receive publishing royalties as well. And basically the way it works with publishing is if you don't assign your publishing rights to a third-party publisher, by default you are the song's publisher. So if you write a song and you haven't given your publishing to someone else, you really are the song's publisher and the song's writer. However, with ASCAP, when you're registering the titles, when you're registering your songs, you have to list both a writer and you have to also list a publisher. So what this means for you is that if you plan on publishing some of your own songs and you're an ASCAP member, you also need to set up a publishing membership with ASCAP. Because in order to register yourself as a publisher, you also have to have your own publishing company. It's simple to do. Anybody can do it. There's no special prerequisites. You simply have to fill out the application. You can do it online. I believe the fee is $35, if I recall correctly. And you simply fill out the application, choose a publishing name, and you're set up as your own publisher. So if you successfully place songs with supervisors yourself, you can also get publishing royalties. With BMI, this is not the case. With BMI, you can list yourself as a publisher, and you don't need a separate publishing membership. So there you have it. With BMI, you can do it simply as a writer. With ASCAP, you have to set yourself up as a publisher to get publishing royalties. So let's assume that you've done this and you want to start pitching songs to supervisors. So the question is, how do you go about doing this? And it's there's really no trick to it. It's really just a matter of finding out what supervisors are working on what projects. Some supervisors will be forthcoming with this information, and in my experience, many won't until you develop some sort of a relationship with them. And how do you develop a relationship? Sometimes it really is just a matter of being really persistent, emailing consistently, and eventually, hopefully your email will get answered. For example, I've been pitching songs to MTV now for a while, and that took a while to sort of get that door to open. But through persistence And I've dealt with this in a previous tutorial. You want to be persistent without being hopefully annoying, but just follow up. If you don't get an answer right away, follow up again, and many times you'll get an answer just through sheer persistence. Some supervisors do list what projects they're working on currently, and today's lead is actually for a company that does exactly that. They have a website set up, and they list specifically what projects they're working on, what their music needs are, and how to submit your music. So that obviously makes it a lot easier. In the directory, though, that was included with this program, there are a number of supervisors, and I list supervisors in the directory for specific TV shows, who the supervisor is, what their email is. It certainly doesn't hurt to make contact with as many people as you can. If you contact 20 music supervisors, maybe you'll only get a response from one. And it really is sort of, I think, depends on how much music they need at any given point. If they're getting their music needs met from the publishers and libraries they're working with, they're probably not going to be as open to hearing independent songwriters. But again, you certainly can approach supervisors directly. There's no rule preventing you from doing so. And another suggestion in terms of contacting supervisors directly is that I think it also helps when you represent yourself as a publisher. In other words, if you can approach a supervisor and say, this is so-and-so from, whatever the name of your publishing company is, X, Music X Publishing, I think it makes you sound a little more professional. And it also, I think in general, supervisors are just a little more open to working with people who have larger volumes of music, as opposed to, if you have like one CD out, what are the chances that they actually need something you have? So whether or not you want to actually start a full-blown music publishing company is obviously up to you. But if you have 5 or 6 other songwriting friends that would be willing to work under the umbrella of one music publishing company, you might find that it's a little easier to get your music listened to that way. I work with several dozen songwriters with my company, Renegade Music Marketing, and I think one of the reasons that it's a little easier for me to get doors open is just because they know I'm working with a lot of different songwriters as opposed to just being one individual songwriter. So it really goes back to the whole reason why supervisors work with music publishing companies and music libraries more often than they do with individual songwriters. Is it's just simply, the odds are better that they're going to find something they need when there's a larger volume of music. So in conclusion, you can approach music supervisors directly. There's nothing preventing you from doing so. I know songwriters who have successfully done this. It can be done. It's just a little bit harder than hooking up with music publishers in general. So that's it for this week. Again, I hope everybody's doing really well with the program. I know we're about 2/3 of the way through, and I know a lot of you have placed your music successfully with several different places, which is great to hear. And I will talk to everybody soon. Have a great week.